Welcome back. All right, so this morning of December 17th of 2018, we will do our news video for today. And I know people are going to go, wait, what? Yeah, I said August yesterday, and everybody wants to correct me as if I don't realize it's October, like I actually think it's August. So yeah, from now on, yeah, I'll just say it's December or February, or maybe I'll say July, or it's fine. It's not a big deal. So getting into the news of the day, which I'm going to try to keep posting later on while we're having the waiver wire news coming out at around 11 o'clock in the morning, my time, which is 2 hours later than normal. And I never heard anything about the waiver wire changing in terms of its timeline at all, but it seems like it's 2 hours later than it was last year and the year before. So Damon Severson is listed as not being able to play for the rest of the preseason for New Jersey, and there's some doubt as to whether or not he's going to play in their season opener. I like Severson. I think he's an important defenseman to the Devils. And as the Devils try to make that climb and back into contention and maybe play some important games this year, having Severson on the blue line is important. So he's out with a muscle strain, and there's no timeline with that right now, other than it being seen as day-to-day. But remember, Pettersson was day-to-day last year for weeks, and then it was months, and then all of a sudden it was, oh, did we say day-to-day? We meant he's not playing this year. Whoops. He's out for the rest of the season. We thought day-to-day and the rest of the season were the same thing. So this is how the NHL works. Now here's the waiver news. Rem Pitlick has been claimed on waivers by the Minnesota Wild from Nashville. So the pipeline of players from Nashville to Minnesota continues. Much like players from Florida end up in Vancouver, players from Vancouver end up in Calgary, right? And so this is just that's how that works. At one point, players in Edmonton ended up in New York for playing for the Rangers. So Pitlick joins other former Nashville Predators playing for the Wild, and again, Minnesota has to keep him on the roster, or they'd have to waive him as well to send him down, and then Nashville could just grab him back. So, Pitlick on waivers goes over to Minnesota. We'll see where he ends up, if he ends up being their 13th forward, or what the plan is. Today's waivers, there's, I think, 14 players on waivers altogether. The noteworthy ones here, Hutchinson's on waivers, of course, the goaltender from Toronto, and we'll see whether or not he clears. He should. I would think that he will. Montreal's got Montembeault playing tonight. He's going to get a look for the Montreal Canadiens. And I don't think that they would look at Hutchinson and say, well, that would be an improvement from Montembeault. I think Hutchinson clears and ends up down in the AHL. But we'll see, right? There may be a team out there that says Hutchinson as a insurance would be good for us. Brett Connolly's also on waivers. So Connolly, it was only a couple of years ago, or about 3 years ago, I think it was, where people were talking about how, his goals per 60 minutes were really high, and he just needed more ice time, and really good advanced stats and everything was there. And it's fallen off the radar since then. So Connolly's on waivers. I think he probably clears and gets sent down. He had a really rough year last season, and if he ends up down in Rockford, maybe he gets his game back. Sometimes getting sent down to the AHL can help. So we'll see whether or not he clears. I would think the answer to that is yes, unless there's a team in the NHL that says, we may get more goals out of Connolly than what we have an option with here. So maybe one of the teams, like maybe a Buffalo, maybe an Arizona, maybe would circle back, but I don't think so. I think Connolly probably clears. But Ottawa may be in the market for picking somebody up on waivers, maybe even a Brett Connolly, because they don't have Tkachuk. And all of the discussion basically is that he's dug in. And I think, either Pierre Dorion was publicly putting out one face on this while privately having another, or he underestimated how difficult this was going to be. During the summer, the conversation was, we're close, we're going to get this done. And even the press was saying, they're close. They're close. It'll be fine. And apparently the dollar amount is not the problem. The dollar amount they're not that far apart on. It's term. Ottawa wants a long-term deal, and I get it. Pierre Dorion wants to sit down next to Brady Tkachuk, put a C on his jersey, and say, we've signed him for 7 years, 8 years, he's sticking around. And if he signs a bridge deal, you can't really do that. You can still have the press conference and say, hey, look, we got Brady Tkachuk back. But if it's a 3-year deal, you've kicked the can down the road 3 years. And if it's a deal that he wants that's going to walk him to free agency, that might be a sticking point for Ottawa too. Remember, the GM has already said It's over. The rebuild is done. They're all finished. So here we go. And so this is where the here we go part starts. And if they can't get Tkachuk signed, and if they have problems signing their other guys, it could be something. Now, of course, Brady's dad was definitely a shrewd business person when it came to his contract dealings, and he knew what he wanted too. So I think Ottawa eventually will capitulate and give him a bridge deal. I don't think they'll be happy about it. I think it's the kind of thing Melnyk will probably grumble about a little bit too. And it may make it so that Brady Tkachuk, not this year necessarily, but at some point they would say, you know what, he doesn't want to be here long term, and then maybe you look to move him. But it's interesting because it just seems like it's turned so quickly, where Tkachuk was the one that looked like he would sign before Kaprizov, before Patterson, before Hughes, and now he's the only one left standing. Bellows, the contract still hasn't been revealed, but he's been playing for the Islanders, so he's got a contract. They haven't handed it in yet. Maybe they'll hand it in soon because he's got to get paid, right? So it's got to be put in with the league. Other news with Ottawa, and another reason why I think they might be active on the waiver wire, is because White got hurt last night. Game that I watched, it didn't look good when he left the ice, and it's not. It is a shoulder injury. It was one of those collisions. It's just, you see them a million times during a game, and somebody gets hurt. And it can just happen that way, where, maybe you take that check 15, 16 times and you're fine, and just in last night's game, you end up hurt. And so it looks like he could be out for a long while. DJ Smith basically said, yeah, this is going to take a while, and they don't have a timeline right now. So they'll get him checked out. They'll have some kind of a timeline, but it does not look like Colin White's going to be in the lineup at the very least to start the season, but he may be out for an extended period. So that's bad news. White was looking to have a bounce back season, and for Ottawa, they need all the depth they can get. So with no Tkachuk in the lineup, and without White in the lineup, and the expectations being raised for Ottawa at least a bit here, they've got to be active, and I would think they may be a team that's looking at the waiver wire to pick up at least one forward. Unless they figure that the kids have come in and proven themselves so well that they're willing to ride it out until White's back or until Tkachuk gets signed. But it doesn't look like there's a resolution on the horizon right now. But again, it's one phone call away. You are one phone call away from fixing the whole thing if you're Dorian or if you're Tkachuk. Maybe Tkachuk says, you know what, fine, and he signs a long-term deal. I don't see that happening, but maybe, right? Anaheim news. Professional tryout has been signed by Ben Hutton. He's going back to Anaheim. He was in Anaheim last year, traded at the deadline. So he goes back. Anaheim knows what they're getting with him. He knows what he's getting with Anaheim. One thing I'll say for Ben Hutton, it's been a while since he played in Vancouver, but Canuck fans don't have anything bad to say about the player in terms of his personality and just being a really, really nice guy and seeming like he is just a great teammate. So while, yes, on the aspects of his play, you might be able to find issues with his play. The player himself that wears the jersey, not so much. So all the best to Ben Hutton, and hopefully he does well this time around. And Mason McTavish, upon return for Anaheim, impressive. And there's been a couple of impressive guys in this preseason out of this draft class, and we'll see if any of them actually manage to make that debut at the start of the season for their teams. A lot of guys have been sent down, a lot of them, and some rosters now are down as low as, I think the lowest I've seen now is a 32-man roster. They have to get down to 23 in time for opening night. So some of these kids are going to end up getting cut, but maybe McTavish sticks around. Again, Anaheim needs goals. So if you can score goals, you've got a good chance to have a job in Anaheim. They may be going through a rebuild and they might be okay with that, but really, if they can get more goals, they're going to want to get more goals. Good news for Islander fans. Anders Lee will be making his return to action. I believe it's in tonight's game as well against the Flyers. And he hasn't played since he got hurt last year during the playoffs, or before the playoffs even, wasn't it? And so, Lee being back is good news for the Islanders and for their fans. And if they'd had Anders Lee against Tampa, but, right, there's a lot of ifs or ands, but if only after a playoff series is done. So Lee's back for the Islanders, who are expected to be in contention. This is the first year that the Islanders really are expected to be contenders. So we'll see how things go with that extra pressure on them. Detroit fans are kind of excited about Raymond and his play. He has been very, very impressive for the Wings, and Moritz Seider has been as well. So Detroit's had a very good preseason so far. Again, it's preseason. It's not like Detroit hasn't had good preseasons lately either. This is just kind of an exciting time because there are some young kids coming in. Berggren was in a non-contact jersey at practice. I think it was yesterday, and so Berggren is making his way back. We'll see if they keep him around until he's 100%, or if they send him down, or what they do with him. Because teams will do that. If a guy's injured, they may keep him around and make sure the injury's healed before they send him to junior, send him to Europe, send him wherever. So we'll see. But it looks like Raymond's going to make the team and could be a pretty good goal scorer for them, and just point producer in general. So that's good news for Detroit as the Yzerman plan starts to bear some fruit here with Seider on the point and Raymond playing up front. We will start to see these kids. And Nedeljkovic, right, in net. That should be interesting to see how Nedeljkovic does this year. And I know, preseason numbers being preseason numbers and all, there will be overreactions to preseason numbers. Maybe when the preseason's done, I'll take a look at some of the preseason numbers. It can be kind of hard to find, though. Like, it used to be preseason numbers were everywhere, but now it's almost like every website went, nobody cares. And so they're not as readily available as they used to be. At least it feels that way. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see which preseason heroes become regular season heroes, and then maybe postseason as well. There you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.